Hey, good morning from the Drying Out Dojo. We go from 10 inches of rain to a heat advisory today. So, you know what? I don't really mind. I've lived all over, and that's really what this video is about. I lived in New York and Texas in the 90s, and I lived in New York and Texas in 2024 to 2026. And I'm originally from New York. I've lived in a lot of trendy cities. Funny, I just looked at my social security statement and it's like, my God, I lived in Austin, New York, Boston, California, Portland, Maine. I've been in a lot of trendy joints. A couple of them on there that I never lived in, which is erroneous information, but I was like, yeah, it looks even cooler. The gist of this video is that it drives me crazy and makes me laugh at the same time how similar New York and Texas are and how different the people think it is or are from each other. And it's really funny because the overall themes are identical. The little nitty gritty on the ground is what's different. And I'll give a very quick example. One of the biggest beefs on Long Island all the time is about the school taxes and the votes, the budget votes and the property taxes and how the payments in lieu of taxes and the grieving your taxes or challenging your assessment. There's no such thing as grieving your taxes. It's challenging your assessment to say they're too high. Anyway, I'm digressing. Here, I got down in McAllen, the same two signs side by side outside one of the shopping centers. Vote yes on proposition, blah, 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 blah. No new taxes. The other is vote no on proposition, blah, 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 blah. And that's from the school district, or vote yes. And it's like, still no new taxes. I'm like, first of all, both projects will give you new taxes. That's guaranteed. So they're both not telling you the truth. Second of all, it's this constant pitting of the homeowners versus others. And that's what's happening right now. If you look at Cameron County, in the news today, they're about to give, this is part of the SpaceX expansion, these side companies, smaller companies that are feeder companies are going to get tax breaks. And then those tax breaks will turn into pilots, which means the schools will still get money, payments in lieu of taxes. And all of this is done before. This was stuff done in the Northeast, and it's happening right here now in Texas, and it does happen. It's one of the ways you fund development. You bring in these companies, they promise a certain amount of jobs, you give them tax abatements, tax breaks. They never really bring in the jobs they promise. They usually end up taking up a lot more infrastructure, water, electricity, and stuff than planned, and don't pay back into it as much. And people just eventually, you put up with it because they're sponsoring a little league. It just is what it is. It becomes sort of part of the fabric. But fiscally, they never do what was promised in the brochure. And sometimes they do. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when they do, that's why Elon gets this kind of clout, because he did that in California. He's done it in Texas. So that's one thing. There's so many other things. New York and Texas, it's hard to explain how they both have this uppity attitude and they think their shit doesn't stink. So New York believes that New Jersey, Connecticut, all its neighbors are just imbeciles. What do you think of Texas? Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, New Mexico. Texas thinks all of its neighbors are ding dongs too. Same way, same arrogant. We got the big hat, we got the big cattle, we got the money. I actually think the Texas Southern accent is much more intelligent than the Southeast Paula Deanish Southern accent, which makes me kind of cringy. So New York's got the tough accent, Texas got the tough accent. Very similar stuff. Let's go to a third, a misrepresentation of the demographic completely. So New York City is a blue state, right? Long Island, it's a bit of a lie. Claims to be a blue state. Town of Hempstead, half of it been red for 110 years, or 104 of 110 years, except for like 4 or 6 years where they were out. Every time during those 4 years, Democrats came in, did something necessary, nobody liked it, and they wiped it out again. Went back to the same problems we had before because nobody liked the solution that caused pain. So, Democrats are set up to fail in that situation all the time, but yet people think it's a blue area. So there's that part of the blue state, and then there's like Albany, the capital, and maybe, a couple of cities, Buffalo, and a few other places. Part of the lower Catskills, Hudson Valley, Westchester, blue areas, we get it. The rest of the state, a massive size state, is country music rednecks. It's all Republican, red across the board, except for little pockets here and there, where there's some colleges or where there, something else went on before. Upstate New York is one of the cheapest land in the country right now. It's like you can buy land in upstate New York for the same you can buy in Alpine, Texas, and Big Bend, in the middle of nowhere with no utilities. You can buy something in upstate New York that was a former, 40-acre working farm. because it's barren. There's no one up there. So it's very similar to, you have a lot of agriculture, a lot of farm, a lot of old burnt out industrial stuff, all Republican. The little pockets of cities, Democrat. Same thing in Texas, exactly the same. The whole triangle, Austin, Dallas, Houston, you've got lots of progressives, lots of liberals. It's borderline blue, purple. Right now it's Tallarico versus Paxton. You could not have a bigger dichotomy or pair of opposites than those two. Down here, way in the Rio Grande Valley, it was consistently a blue state forever. Gerrymandering has kind of turned it purple red, but other parts of the state. And then you get out into all the rest of the state, redder than this puppy right here, okay? Red. So both states are essentially purple. That's what's funny. And again, same tax thing, same type of strong arm politicians. Abbott is no different than sort of like, who would Abbott be the equivalent of? Cuomo. Abbott's a Cuomo, but a different Cuomo. So as far as I see, I can go back and forth to all these places and see the same stuff, same kind of people working their ass off. New York, you're busting your ass off to make $150,000 a year, but with the tax base, you take home 90. In Texas, there's no income tax. You're making, 60 and you take home 40 or 45. So proportionally, it's similar, even though you're not making much. Again, remember finance. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. So again, you have to weigh what's your quality of life, what's available. Here, there are certain things that I'm not going to compare culturally to New York, but you can't not either, because Texas has everything you could possibly want, some of it better than New York. New York has so much of everything you want and it's possibly better than anywhere else. Both expensive though now, both very, sort of overdeveloped, overbuilt, and going through changes like upheaval and swapping out places. And you want more proof? Who's moving to Texas? Wall Street, financial stuff. Chase Bank has more branches, and the headquarters are going to be in Texas as opposed to New York. It's just a shifting of wealth in some ways. In some ways, I give Texas credit because I always said these fucking big-hatted oil guys are what's keeping us down. The oil lobby, the whole thing. And they did for years and years and years until the Permian Basin happened. And then the Permian Basin just flooded Texas with money. And they've been able to do a lot of crazy shit since. Some good, some bad. And that's why you get kind of purple. And now SpaceX and that IPO and stuff like that is going to do a lot to Southeast Texas slowly because it's so far from everything, but it's already happening. Brownsville home prices are up like 30 or 40%, or close to 50% in 4 years. Like, are you kidding? It's unsustainable, but that's what happens. It won't be sustained by some, but it will be heavily sustained and grown by others. Until it becomes untenable or polluted or out of resources or too expensive, and then they'll move on and do it to somewhere else. But that's where it is for right now. But this whole notion that Texas is great, even the San Antonio Knicks thing was such a perfect microcosm for the two central themed powers of the country. The California scene is a little wacky, but New York and Texas are sort of still these bread and butter, what we are about, what we represent. And the notion that one is so blue and one is so red is so false. It's just so false. They're both purple. Period. End of story. You want to know? Come visit. You can come stay with me a week. You can come down here to South Texas and we can go, it's Mexico. But you know what we have here? IKEA, Burlington stores, Ross stores. That's what Mexicans like. They like to shop at middle-class American stores. You know what Americans are getting? Dollar Generals. So let's calm the whole insanity and the hysteria and the whole, division and nonsense. We're so alike in every state except like West Virginia. And even that, West Virginia is so similar to Pennsylvania, which is so similar to Ohio, which is so similar to parts of New York, which is so similar to parts of Kentucky, which is so similar to parts of, places south of that. We're all the same. We just talk a little differently, eat a little differently, spend a little differently, earn a little differently, have slightly different vocations. And yes, there are some people who are white bread, high-ass billionaires and millionaires, but that's you're voting for that. We've been voting over and over to enrich certain people and poor others. And you're voting for it. I'm voting for it. We're voting to make ourselves poorer and them richer. if you don't get out of trickle down, that's never going to stop. And no politician out there today is talking about trickle down except Tallarico. And believe me, in a couple of more months, they'll beat that out of him, because that's not going to, it doesn't sell well to the people with money. So they don't want us to be socialist. They don't want us to be this. They don't want us to be, right, Christian right either. We want to have rational, normal stuff, and our politics are so broken that's going to happen. But now I'm completely digressing. So the reason that the politics are so broken is because there's no power or money or anything in me saying that Texas and New York are identical. There's nothing in it except people laughing at me, even though I'm 150% spot on, balls on accurate. It is much more beneficial to certain entities who need to make money, like they're literally industries within politics, to make sure that Texas is seen as this burly, red, tough, all hat, loads of cattle and oil state, and New York is seen as this wishy, Jewishy, money banking, Wall Street state. But it's all bullshit, because New York manufactures shit and does shit and has all kinds of crime and shit and has all kinds of rich and shit and everything. And Texas has the same stuff, same shit, just slightly different gun laws, some different emissions standards, but otherwise some slightly different basic industries. But otherwise, except for the fact that the Northeast was first to job out all its bullshit, and Texas picked up a lot of it. Now Texas has lost a good chunk of it to Mexico. So Texas realizes now, where I am, no more sugar cane, no more oranges and grapefruits, no more particular produce packaging. There's some, but it's not what there was before. Now it's Carrier and Stanley and Black & Decker and Hyundai and General Motors and all the companies from the upper Midwest and the Rust Belt that we voted out with NAFTA and said, yeah, let them all leave. Hear that? Remember Ross Perot? Hear that sucking sound? That's our jobs leaving. They're all there. So the people who are working here have a factory in Reynosa, but they live in McAllen or Mission. And they go back and forth across the border all the time, just like you're going from Niagara Falls to Toronto. It's not a big deal. It's not this cartel-ridden, crazy. It's no people rushing them. It's just cars going back and forth every day, or walkers going back and forth every day. My dentist is in Mexico, better than any dentist I had here. He actually has a helper. Never had a helper with a cleaning before. I get a helper with a dentist who does the cleaning and a helper. Wow. In a brand new suite that looks, pristine. They don't even have to clean it. It's just so new. So anyway, it's just, I wish I could impress upon people a way to clear the fog of bullshit that's been thrust upon us for 50, 60 years by a paid, controlled, ultra directed and edited press and a political system that is so flooded with printed debt money that it's manipulated everything about this country. And we warned about it with Reagan, and then we warned again with Trump, and nobody listens, nobody hears. So now I'm an old man, I can't change anything. Bob Dylan had a great quote about being 80. It was like, you can the things that could have altered everything if everything could have been altered at that time anyway, which it couldn't. So it's only in hindsight that we find these things out. It's pretty amazing. Dylan's still writing pretty incredible stuff. He's 86, actually. So I don't really know what else to say except to tell you that 90% of the country is similar. 10% is whacked out different. And then within that 90%, there are so many little subtleties and things that don't affect anyone. And if you all sat down and broke bread together, it wouldn't be anything, Like you'd learn in 5 minutes of, oh, he's crazy, he's gay, he's this, they're that, she's that. This. Oh, we got this in our family, they got that in their family. It's not all, we're this type of Christian, and they're this type of Christian, and we're this type of Jew. That's all just bullshit. It's all divisive nonsense used in power. The church, they do that to protect their own money and power. They don't want you to go to a different church. They don't want you to switch to a different religion. They don't want you to leave religion, period. They don't, whatever it is, whether it's for good reasons or nefarious reasons or greed or super spirituality, it doesn't matter. Everyone gets to make their own decision. That's what America is. So why is it that we are so America and we're so into the Constitution until it's like, your church says something, or your school says something, some institution says something. Where did we become so institutionalized? We're institutionalized because we've created this strange link between institutions and money. And so institutions have too much power. Too much power. And I'm not saying go take arms against the, against the government to do that. It's too late for that. They've got super militarized. All that debt money went to a lot of weapons. So good luck with that, trying to stand up. People are going to stand out and shout at ICE, go, ICE, ICE. ICE has been working for 5 presidents. So your credibility is gone. There is none. ICE worked under everyone. It's just you only heard of it now because you hate Trump. I get it. But I heard of it before when Obama was doing it, and I love Obama. I didn't like what he was doing, but that's what we do. What are you going to do? Well, every regime lets a bunch of people in, and then another regime or the same regime has to kick a bunch of people out. That's what they do every day of every week of every month of every year in America and every other modern progressive or civilized country. We manage migration because there's people coming from fucked up places who need to get out, some good, some bad, and you have to try to monitor who comes in. It's just not like, hey man, come rolling in, which we kind of believe we had at some point. But that's because there was nothing here. Once there was something here, the first thing you do is get a gun and protect your border. Every ship that comes up, it's like, yo, what up? What are you doing here? Who are you? That's what happens when you have a home. Well, it wasn't your home before, so it didn't matter. Well, now it's our home, and we've turned it into this weird, bitter apartment building of people who are just at each other's throats all the time, while there's some landlord in Hawaii going, they put up with it. What do you want me to tell you? They could revolt, but they don't. I don't know why. So, yeah. So Texas is whatever you think, and New York is whatever you think, and you're wrong. They're both super similar. Maybe not geographically or weather-wise, but otherwise, financially, politically, manufacturally, economically, fiscally, mentally, thematically. Same, no shame in this game. You're the same fucking people in the same country. So you both wear stupid hats. I love you all. Peace out. Have a great day today, whether you're in Texas, New York, Cali. God bless America, land that I love. I do. Isn't that crazy?